health. A lot of times, because of cultural nuances, societal changes, we see that men born a kind of a role which is authoritative, which is full of responsibilities, and that makes them mold in a way in which they are the providers, the givers, and the protectors for the family. Now, having said that, a lot of times, because of the role that they don't, they tend to, neglect themselves from a perspective of health. Now, if you have, and you are a person who has an elderly father, like I have, or you are someone who has a spouse who is also father to a little one, or you are someone who has a sibling or any other friend or relative who is a father figure, it's a good idea that you attend this session so that we talk about the different nuances of men's health and the issues that men face, many a times very common, some uncommon or unheard of, which can then be taken care of through preventive health checkups or from a perspective of proactive health management. All right. So please feel free to ask questions, type out your any specific details that you would want to know throughout the session, and I will try my best to answer them. Please type it out in the Q&A section. All right. So let's begin. I think as we discussed, right, that men, they don't have a certain kind of responsibility and role, right? And but at the same time, they are also the ones who typically are out there doing a lot of work, many a times physical activities, many a times, I think I went out of network. I'm really sorry for that. But let's continue with our discussion, right? So, because of the kind of lifestyle that men are leading, a lot of issues that we are seeing early on. So, even in young adults, right, young men in their 20s and in their 30s, we are seeing a lot of issues from a perspective of physical health, right? Now, this has been even more in the post-COVID era. We are seeing a lot of individuals showing chronic diseases and showing a lot of health-related problems in the post-COVID era. Even in the 20s and 30s, we are seeing people with high blood pressure, sugar problem, cholesterol issues, and things like obesity or even mental health issues, right? So let's talk about each one of them and also talk about what we can do from a preventive health perspective. So the first and foremost thing is that if we see that you do not have any symptomatology as such, right? It is still a good idea in your 20s that you get the men around you to get a health checkup done, right? Why is this important? Usually in the 20s, most individuals do not face any health issues, major health issues. But this is also the time that many a times underlying health issues could be, uh, concurrently happening, which is not shown outside, right? So a lot of people with say blood pressure issues, sugar problems, cholesterol issues, they may have these issues very early in life, but it is only expressed in their 30s and 40s. So good idea is to check these in the 20s itself at least once. So in the decade of your 20s, at least get a health checkup done where we look at, get a blood pressure check done, look at the sugars, look at how the cholesterols are. A very common thing that we are finding these days is liver related problems. This also could be due to the change in the habits or change in the lifestyle. A lot of young are now showing fatty liver or liver related ailments. And it's a good idea to check the liver profile also at least once in the early 20s. Okay. If everything is all right, that's great. But if not, then actions can be taken accordingly. One very common issue that men have that we are seeing is also deficiency of certain vitamins, specifically, say, vitamin D3. Now, because most individuals in the urban setup who are also, working professionals, they maybe have a seating job, or maybe they have a very sedentary lifestyle. They're not exercising or doing strength training. This leads to them having chronic aches and pains. And this is seen commonly in younger individuals as well, right? So men in the 20s and 30s are also already showing aches and pains and musculoskeletal related problems. And this could be attributed to, one is definitely vitamin D deficiency, because a lot of people are sitting indoors, like how we are all right now, right? We are in artificial light instead of being in sunlight, which is actually the main source of which helps in synthesis of vitamin D, right? So one issue could be that there is a vitamin deficiency, and it's a good idea to check it. The other issue that most individuals have, because which leads to these kind of aches and pains, is just postural problems, right? Because a lot of people are not exercising enough, or they may have posture issues leading to aches and pains. So we see a lot of young adults now who are having low back pain, neck pain, problems with say heel pain or shoulder pain, quite common. And this can be just attributed to posture, right? So this is something that needs to be also thought of, right? So if you're a young individual, right, look at if you don't have any symptom, just look at doing basic checkup, which includes your blood counts, your cholesterol, sugars, blood pressure reading, liver function, and so on, and vitamins if it is required. But if you do have symptoms, now what most commonly are we seeing in the 20s and 30s age group? One is aches and pains that we talked about. But the second most common that is a symptom or the issue that we are seeing in young men is stomach related ailments, right? So simple things like gastritis or what we call as reflux disease, right? Here, what happens is that people, because of their untimely eating habits, or maybe habits such as alcohol, use of alcohol or smoke, or sleep related issues, that people are sleeping enough, or there could be stress related issues, all of it expressed as stomach related ailments where there is either acidity or gastritis, right? Or reflux disease, or we call as GERD. Very common issue again. And GERD and gastritis is very commonly associated with lifestyle conditions. So it's important that we take note of this as a second most common problem. And if you do have it, get it checked. A lot of young adults also, because there's the pattern of eating out is very high, they tend to get certain infections. Like one common thing is like, typhoid or stomach ailments, gastroenteritis. But a common issue which causes severe form of gastritis is an infection by a bacteria called H. pylori. Okay, it's a very common thing that we are seeing in young adults because of eating contaminated food, out drinking contaminated water rather. And this is very difficult also because the symptoms are quite persistent. And unless it is diagnosed correctly, right, with one may need to go to a gastroenterologist, get an endoscopy done if required. But unless it's diagnosed correctly, because the treatment line is long term, right, involves antibiotics for long term treatment, and hence it's important that this is taken care of and looked at. This is the second most common symptom that we see in the young male. Third common problem that we see is specifically in those who have lowered immunity. So what we're seeing is that a lot of young individuals post-COVID are falling sick or ill more often. That's because their immunity is low. Now, this can be because of multiple reasons. Maybe it's the diet, which is an issue, or maybe that their ability to fight infections has reduced, right? Or they have developed allergies, which is leading to, allergic reaction or symptoms. But we see a lot of individuals falling sick more often because of most probably some kind of an ailment, such as deficiencies of vitamins and so on and so forth. But that is also something that can be checked by the use of some blood tests, right? So in the young individuals, these are the three most common issues that we have seen. Having said that, it's a common thing that in the 30s itself that chronic diseases are now cropping in for men. And I think it is important that they do not neglect it. If you've done your first health checkup in your 20s once and things look fine, that's great, But in the 30s, it is recommended that at least once in 2 years, get your tests done, if not every year. But once you touch 40, it's important that you test every single year to figure out if there is any possibility for chronic disease, right? Unless you do that, it will become very difficult for us to know what needs to be taken care of beforehand, even before the presentation of symptoms or the symptoms getting detected. All right. Now, suppose you're in your 30s and you find out that you have, say, borderline sugar problem, or say you find out that your blood pressures are borderline, right? Or your cholesterols are a little deranged. It is important that at this stage itself, you take action. I see a lot of individuals who brush down under the carpet issues, which are borderline issues, which can easily be taken care of by lifestyle modification. But because they don't give it the right attention, it can become more serious later on, right? In a younger age group, you still have the ability to fight these chronic diseases, right? By taking the right measures, right? Right remedial measures, say, be it in terms of your diet, or be it in terms of exercise, or be it in terms of relieving your stress, or looking at your sleep pattern, whatever it is, right? Whatever is required to be done to ensure that the borderline case of blood pressure or sugar or cholesterol or any other chronic disease is taken care of at this in this age itself, if it is shown. The incidence of all chronic disease has exponentially increased, exponentially increases once you cross the age of 40. And hence, one of the reasons also is, apart from the fact that one is growing old, our metabolic processes also slow down. If you are somebody who has a family history, it becomes even much more important. So if you say, suppose you are somebody who has a family history of diabetes or hypertension, then it is important that you pay more attention to this and get yourself checked more often, because the risk of getting illnesses at this age is also very high, right? So as I said, as you grow older, the chronic diseases come in more picture. Now, the older one gets, right, about the age of 50, and apart from the chronic diseases, the risk of development of cancers also increase, right? So we have seen as the age grows, incidence of gastric cancers, or incidence of lung cancer in men, incidence of prostate cancers, these increase exponentially, right? And it is important that if you notice any symptoms pertaining to any kind of cancer, so it can be, sudden loss of weight, change in your bowel habits, any kind of a mole or a rash that you see which doesn't get better, or it is you have chronic fevers, or you have a chronic cough or a chronic symptom which is not getting better, right? Any change in your bowel habits, anything which is different or changed which cannot be explained otherwise, it's a good idea to get it checked, right? And this typically would be in individuals who are growing older, right, above the age of 50. Now, it is important on one hand, we look at the physical health aspect, but also it is important that we shed light on the mental health aspect. Men in general, from young age, typically because of the cultural nuances or the societal pressures, men are even young boys are told, don't cry, don't express your symptoms, express your feelings, don't express, you should be strong. These are the things which are said very commonly. And this can sometimes give a false kind of a recognition to young minds, saying that they have to be a certain way, right? That maybe expressing oneself is a sign of weakness, but that is not true, isn't it? And we see now that there are a lot of young men, and between the anywhere between the age of 20 to 40, who do suffer from mental health issues, and it is quite difficult for them to to go ahead and keep discussing about it, because of obviously because of the societal pressures. So one needs to understand that if you are an individual who has a man around you, be it your husband or a father or grandfather, and you see that there are issues. Now, what can these issues be? If somebody looks depressed, somebody is irritable, somebody around you is you're seeing them to have crying spells, or they are getting angry without any appropriate reason, or you see change in their eating pattern, sleeping pattern, they are more quiet. It is important that you raise this and this concern to them, be gentle, non-judgmental, and empathetic towards them, discuss with them, and nudge them to seek help at the right time. Because mental health issues in men are often ignored as compared to physical health. Usually one would look at the physical health aspect and not look at the mental health aspect of it. So, as someone who's caring for the man in your life, it is important that you keep these points about mental health in mind when you are having when you are dealing, or when you are talking to the fathers or grandfathers or husbands around there. All right. Now, it is important that we make it better for in terms of the men's health in certain aspects, right? Men in general, it's important for us to know, are more prone to cardiac ailments, right? Women, on one hand, they have protective hormones, but men are more prone to cardiac ailments. So the incidence of heart attack, or incidence of, say, an infarction or a cardiac event happening, is almost 5 times higher in men as compared to women. And this is quite often associated not just because of the lifestyle and symptoms, but just because of the gender itself, right? Similarly, men are at a higher risk of getting a stroke, right, or paralysis. That also is higher in the male gender, right? Some of the cancers are much more higher in male gender. For example, the lung cancer, the stomach cancer are incidentally more seen in men. Now, it is important for us to understand that with all of this in place, it is important for men to take care of them by doing the right thing, by taking the right actions in terms of preventive health checks, by talking to counselors on a regular basis, and having a personal physician who would be there to help them in the suppose there is a need for it. Now, why is it so important? Because when you have your doctor who you can reach out to, who knows you, it will be easier for you to understand from where you need to seek help. So that is something as a doc, as someone who would want to keep their health as a number one priority, you would want to look at it, right? Now, apart from that, I think it is important that we also talk about this to young minds, right? That they need to be seeking help at the right time and at the right place to ensure that they are doing well. All right. So, with that, I think I would just want to kind of summarize what I would want to say about men's health. One, that men are at a higher risk of having chronic diseases, and hence it becomes even more important that they focus on their health and prioritize their health. They can do this by taking preventive health checks and by taking the right action depending on their history, depending on their family history, their habits, and their daily day-to-day routines. They need to ensure that they focus on their lifestyle by taking care of their diet, exercise patterns, stress relief, water intake, and sleep. It's important that they do it. Control on personal habits such as smoke and alcohol is important. It's always a good idea to quit smoking and preferably quit alcohol if possible or limit its intake. And it is important that we are providing support from a mental health perspective by A, reaching out and seeking help with family or friends, or a professional counselor at the right time to ensure that we provide ourselves with a holistic healthcare perspective. All right. So I hope that this helps you to take care of yourself if you are the man of the house, or take care of them if you are the caregiver for them. In either which ways, I think it's important that we live harmoniously and happily so that we can take care of each other. With that, I would like to call this session to an end. Do take care of yourself, stay safe, stay healthy and happy. Until next time.